Well, hello. You can see my microphone, but better to hear me. There we go. Hi, I'm so excited that you guys are here. Welcome to workshop number 2, how to master your no so you can really embody and embrace your hell yes of Boundary Palooza. I'm super psyched you're here. So do say hello. If you have not already signed into the chat role, those of you who are in that other place where chat roll is, please do so now. It's super easy. Welcome back for those of you who were here with us on Tuesday. How fun was that? We broke the internet for a minute. We will not be breaking the internet today, but that was a lot of people coming in at the same time. So we're super, super excited for today's workshop. And I would love to know where you're coming in from. So log into the chat box and tell me. Hi from Germany. How you doing? Hello, Maine is in the house, which I appreciate. Hi, Christine. Hello, Julie, Jill, so many people. Hi, Colorado's in the house. You know we got Jersey, Philly, New York in the house, of course. Sweden's in the house. Portland, Oregon, right on. Hi, are you guys ready to master your no? I bet you are. Your videos are saving my life. I'm so happy. It's a lifeline. Excellent. That makes me so psyched. I hope all this information coming in for you is a lifeline as well. Who else we got? Portugal in the house, Italy, Toronto, Texas. Of course, we got Philly. Hello, Finland. How are you? Serbia. Hi. My Serbian friends are here. I'm super psyched you guys are here. We've got a lot to cover. So I'm actually just going to start doing a little bit of housekeeping because we always got to do it. I want you to know the rules of engagement, know what we're going to be doing. First, I just want to say how incredibly excited I am that you're here. And I have to acknowledge you for what went on Tuesday. I'm just blown away by what you guys shared, your aha moments, how incredibly insightful you are. And that was from people showing up live and putting replay in it and watching it after the fact. So much growth and raised awareness. It makes me so incredibly happy. So good. I'm super grateful right now for those of you that figured out how to get here live. So deep bow of gratitude. It makes me so happy. Anyone who wants to have mental health, right? You want to raise your awareness, your boundary IQ. And here's the thing. There's so many people who complain about things that are painful in their life, who say it. They really want to master it. But here's the difference. You little rock stars are actually here walking your talk, right? Because it doesn't change. Nothing changes until you do. That's the reality. And these are things that you can learn. So I'm just so excited that you're here. Go you. And thanks for spending an hour with me because, you could be doing a million other things. And I really do appreciate your time and your willingness to invest in yourself. So a few updates. As promised on Tuesday, Boundary Palooza Central is now live and open. So this is a page where you can find all the dates, everything that you need. You get all the free stuff that we have, the reminders. You can download the workbook, which if you haven't done, you want to do. And you can learn how you can win prizes by sharing the Boundary Palooza love. And we're going to be emailing you right after this workshop with all the information. And there'll be a link to Boundary Palooza Central, which is just terrycole.com/central. So easy breezy. The workbook, though, I really do want you to download it because A, it's beautiful. B, you can follow along with what we're doing and there's places for you to write. But I also added 20 powerful questions. It's like an assessment for you to get a clear idea of where your boundaries are at this moment in time. Easy. Also, there's been so much activity. Oh my God, you guys, I was up to like 3 a.m. in the Facebook group and under the video, right? So we have both places where you could be sharing your aha moments and what is happening for you. So please keep that going. I love your comments. It's so great. You can put a comment under any training video and we will be seeing it. Now, while I'm live and teaching you, I'm obviously not going to see your zillions of all of them, but Team TC is going to be grabbing them for me. So don't you worry about it, but I will be going back through the chat roll later. And please, you're doing an amazing job sharing on social media. So I want to say, please keep going. Hashtags are Boundary Palooza and BB 2019. This is how you get credit for being in the contest. If you're in the contest, check that out on Boundary Palooza Central. It's so funny. We've seen all these people telling us who they're sharing with in a loving way. Not like, oh, hey, mom, you need boundaries, but people sharing with their sisters, their kids. And actually one woman wrote in and said she shared it with her 89-year-old mom. So I hope that mom is here right now. Hello, mom. Welcome. It's never too late to learn about boundaries. So keep it going. Because why? Why is that? Because we transform the world by transforming ourselves. And that's exactly what we're doing right here, right now. Our collective positive ripple is mind-blowing. So keep the sharing going. How the Q&A works, you guys know, if you were here on Tuesday, I'm going to teach for about 35 to 40 minutes. Team TC is collecting all the questions, and then I'm going to go right into answering your Qs. I'll answer as many as I possibly can, and I'll continue answering them throughout Boundary Palooza, which means I'm going to be popping up on Instagram Live, on Facebook, on YouTube to answer even more. I'm going to be doing pop-up lives for the duration of Boundary Palooza. All right, so now let's bring it on down because we got to get moving into content. But before we do, I really want you to acknowledge yourself for taking this sacred time for you to be here. And even if you already you feel like you have a great boundary skill set, I guarantee you will still learn a thing or two in this workshop. I've been doing this on the front lines and in the trenches, this female empowerment stuff for over 20 years. And I've helped thousands of women just like you guys. So I'm excited and honored to be here right now. I think that we should get a little bit grounded because I'm a little bit psyched right now. And I want you all to just drop your attention inward. So gently close your eyes and let's just start with a nice long deep breath in through your nose. And keep your eyes gently closed. And I'm just going to ask you to ponder 2 questions before we get moving. I'd love you to share if you feel like it. You can drop it into the comments afterwards. So the first one is, when you know you need to say no to someone, how do you feel in your body? Can you imagine right now what actually happens? And if you had to put words on that, what would they be? Do you feel constricted? Do you feel fearful? Do you feel anger or dread? Just allow yourself to feel that right now. And then the second question is, when you basically say yes, when you really want to say no, what happens internally for you in that moment? Like in your mind, are you blaming that person because they asked you? Are you judging them as being like greedy or entitled or selfish? Do you feel guilty because you're pissed? And now open your eyes if you have them closed, and please drop whatever you want to share about what you felt in the comments. Someone said, I feel defeated, I feel angry, resentment, mad at myself. And that, that you're not alone, Jenny, because that is like so many of us do that, where we can't even deal with our anger at the other person, or it'll be in our mind, but mad at ourselves because we're doing that. I feel uneasy. Yeah, that's so true, Erin. I feel uneasy about saying no. Then I feel a different uneasiness when I say yes, right? Because that's not aligned with what you actually want to do. Frustrated because I don't want to do it. I freeze and get mad at myself. Yeah. I feel stuck, frustrated, mad, guilty. There's so much guilt that comes along with this. So we're really all on the same page, which is why this is the topic of this workshop, right? This is how to master your no so you can get to your hell yes. And I'm going to be teaching you the 4 top reasons or underlying processes that might be going on for you that make owning your no challenging, because we all know that knowledge actually really is power. So I'm going to be starting with how you can uncover the disease to please. And I think many of you have heard me, refer to this before. So what actually is the disease to please? So there's 4 questions that you'll answer right now, just for yourself. You can put it in your workbook, and this will indicate how committed you are unconsciously to seeking the approval or pleasing other people, really above yourself. So the first question is simple. Do you say yes when you really want to say no? The second question is, do you apologize often, not only when you're not sorry, but when you're angry? So let's take one sec to think about that question. how many of you use apologizing as some kind of a social lubricant, shall we say? How many? Think about it. Do you say you're sorry? Do you mean it? And I'm going to say, if you say it a lot, you really don't, because you can't. In New York, if somebody bumps into you in the subway, even though they bumped into you, do you say, I'm sorry, just reflexively, because so many of us were taught that. But this is a really important one to understand, because it's very disempowering to be doing that all the time. The third question to answer is, do you avoid confrontation at all cost? Are you one of those people who just doesn't want to do it, would rather sort of suffer silently than have the difficult conversation, maybe because you don't know how, maybe because you never had a good model, like no role models in your life to show you? So that's number 3. And number 4 is, do you put everyone else's needs above your own? So now you're going to count up your answers, which is not going to be too hard. And I have to say, maybe the bad news is that if you had 2 or more yeses on that, I would have to say that you have the disease to please. And don't worry, it isn't fatal. It doesn't have to be chronic, but it's something that is actually real. And it's the disease to please other people. That's really what we're talking about here. So you can write, I got it in the comments, just I got it, meaning you are infected with the disease to please. People are saying, yes, yes, yes. I see lots of, I got it. All right. I got it. What do they say? If you spot it, you got it. Oh my God. Yes. Everyone everywhere is saying, I got it, because you do. And I understand, because someone said, I got it bad. I got it real bad. I feel you. This is raising your awareness, though. The point of even bringing up the disease to please is because I want you to know that there is a methodology to stopping doing this. This is what Boundary Palooza and Boundary Bootcamp, what I teach in my course, is all about. But we have to understand that these are real things. So this is something that now you have those 4 elements of what the disease to please is. And you can go back later, you can journal about them, get really clear about where are you doing this in your life. Because this is the first step. So much of what we're doing, and it's always the first step to transformation, is raising your awareness. There are a million reasons why you do those things. What's most important in this moment in time is for you to really get clear that you don't want to keep doing them. Right? I got it. There's still people writing, I got it. That's how many people got it. So that was really for awareness raising for you. I want to move into something that's a little bit more tangible in the way of what you're actually doing behavior-wise. Is we move into the second thing, which is the lies that we tell ourselves. So this is a little bit complicated, but it is so real. And once I explain it to you, you're going to get it. So the lies we tell ourselves, why would we tell ourselves lies? To avoid a confrontation, to avoid setting limits. So in other words, this is how we avoid honoring the boundary we need to draw. So think of it like this. This is the act of distorting the facts so that you don't have to take that action of speaking up, stepping up, saying no, because right now, perhaps in your life, that action feels too threatening. So let's go. I'm going to give you a couple of ways that you can think about the lies that you may be telling yourself in your own life. Because here's the thing with telling ourselves lies, right? It's, if we looked at it from defense mechanisms, we would say it's being in denial, right? Is that this is a short-term solution, but it's not a successful long-term strategy, because even if your conscious mind is sort of rationalizing the other person's crappy behavior, your unconscious mind knows the truth. And in that knowing, there's anxiety that is created. Does that make sense? So even when our conscious mind is like, I can't deal, I definitely can't deal, the unconscious mind is like, wow, this is what's really happening. So we don't want all of this underground anxiety happening that we don't really understand why we're feeling the way that we do. So the lies we tell really comes in the form of excuses that we make for other people who cross the boundary. So it may sound like he's under so much pressure at work right now, which is why he screamed at me last night. So that's a justification. Or I know she doesn't mean it when she says hurtful things because she's always so emotional right before she gets her period. So what is that? That's us justifying and actually excusing behavior that really isn't cool. If someone is screaming at you regularly, or if you're screaming at someone else regularly, you're crossing a boundary. And it can also be, so much of it is just fueled by fear. So think about a work situation, right? I'm afraid I'm making a big deal out of nothing, right? Why? Because we don't want to be branded a drama queen, a tattletale, hysterical, right? As women, people love to be like, oh, she's just hysterical, or a bitch, right? I'm afraid if I go to human resources about Bob's behavior, here's Bob again, I'll be labeled as a troublemaker. So we talk ourselves out of it in a way that lets us off the hook. So we don't have to take an action that we feel like we can't. So I want you to start thinking about in your own life, where do you do this? Where do you make excuses? And here's part of the problem is that if you're very understanding of someone else's situation or where they're coming from, so many of you in this crew are highly sensitive people or empaths. I know that you identify that way. Feel free to raise your hand or give me a thumbs up or send me some hearts. I don't think you can do that where you are, but yes, just say yes. Now, so this is different than just having compassion for someone else. When you're actually an empath, it's like you're really feeling their feelings. And so even more so than with other people, as a highly sensitive person, and especially an empath, you are, you make the excuse because you're like, they had a terrible childhood. They had an abusive parent. They just got out of a marriage with an alcoholic who was physically abusive to them. How can I say no to this experience? And I actually just had a friend tell me a story where she was working with someone and his wife died, and she was an empath and he was very attracted to her energy, and she was so compassionate, and everyone from work went to the funeral and everything. And he said to her, I really would like you to come with me to the this is like a month later, with me to the ceremony, to the cemetery. I haven't been there before. And she was like, I was so incredibly uncomfortable and I just felt like I couldn't say no. And thank God I was in therapy, because she wasn't really close with this person. He didn't even work in the same office, but it's like he connected. He was like an energy sucker and he connected to her compassion. And her therapist was like, do you want to do that? He doesn't have anyone closer in his life who should be doing that with him. And luckily she was able to say no. But have you ever been in this situation where you feel like this person just had this terrible experience? That means I must do this thing. It actually doesn't mean that. But when you feel things very deeply, we can really feel like we're trapped, like we don't have a choice. So hopefully this will be bringing your awareness from the basement to the main part of your house that you actually do have a choice. And that if you go to the cemetery with some rando that just had a terrible thing happen in his life, that's a choice too. Even when we feel forced, the reality is that it's a choice, So this is what hopefully this is coming into your mind throughout, and will be continued to throughout Boundary Palooza, is about making conscious, mindful choices from free will, not because you feel trapped. You're going to start to feel that feeling that I asked you to conjure at the beginning of this. And when you start to feel that constriction, or someone said it was like a tightness in their throat, that means pay attention to me. Pause before you make a decision. Think before you say yes. Buy time. Step back. Take a deep breath, whatever you need to do. But I want you to see the connection between that. You're always getting signals from the wisdom. Your body is so wise. It's always telling you something, but so much of the time we're disconnected from that experience. So slow it on down. And when you start to feel that familiar feeling, constriction, anxiety, fear, throat, neck, head, belly, wherever you said that you felt it, that means pause. Give yourself permission to pause. Because it's so much easier to say no than to take back the no, even if you just buy time, rather than straight up being like, no way. I'll need you to look at my calendar. I don't know. So that you can give yourself space to get to that stronger no. All right. Another thing we do is as I showed you in those examples, is that we're basically providing the excuses for the person because we don't even want to confront them. We're not even waiting for them. We make it up in our minds. I remember I'd written this poem when I was in high school. I was so like dramatic and ridiculous. So I wrote a poem, and it was about something that I won't tell you exactly what it was about, but it was about something that if your mother found that poem, she would really not be psyched for what she read. And my mother, who I love very much, but was the queen of denial, found the poem and said to me, "Oh, I found this poem. And that was about the friend that you told me about, right? Wasn't that about the friend that you told me about?" Literally. And I was like, yes, my friend. That's who that was about. But no offense, but my mother was the queen of doing this because she didn't have the skills to handle the hard conversations or to know. She didn't want to know whatever was in that poem. You get it? All right, I have a bunch of questions coming up. So people are saying they feel bad when they show their anger, which I understand, or if they have to break a promise, but you bring up a great point about the promise. Because here's the thing, the reason why we're talking about this today is that when you say yes, when you want to say no, sometimes then we find a way to just not do it. We just find a way. Then we lie. We say we're sick. We say our dog is sick. We do something else. And all of that stuff is out of integrity, right? And that there's a cost for that as well. So moving on, I want you to be clear because you're going to have all your own ways. If you do this, if you have lies that you tell yourself, so to speak, or half-truths, you know what they are. So I'm hoping that this will inspire you, and I want you to write them in the workbook. And who are you doing this with the most in your life? Because that is where your newly found awareness will be best spent, is on those relationships, changing those relationships, getting into those relationships, and figuring out why you feel like you can't say no to this particular person. Someone said, my boyfriend. Yeah. All right, we're moving into, to get your healthy no, you must really become aware of where you're giving the unhealthy no the most. So please write in the workbook all about that. Let's move into point number 3, because I want to make sure that I get to your questions. Point number 3 is we're going to be talking about discernment, the importance of discernment. What are the differences between a boundary, a preference, a deal breaker? So not all boundary requests or preferences are equally important to each other. Hence why I break it into categories, because it isn't just about other people acquiescing to what we want, giving us what we want, doing things our way or the other way around. So a preference, what is a preference? You might prefer coffee over tea. That's a preference. These are not normally earth-shattering, unless within the relationship, what you're always doing is what the other person's preference is. Then your boundaries are out of balance. A preference could be you like to go to bed early. Maybe your partner likes to go to bed late. You can have different preferences. For some couples, that would create a conflict. You might have to meet in the middle. For others, they wouldn't care. Go to bed when you want to go to bed. I'll go to bed when I want to go to bed. But I'm just trying to give you an idea of what preferences. Maybe you like to text instead of talk on the phone, or the other way around. But it's important when you're really establishing a solid boundary skill set to know your preferences. But right now, for point number 3 in this workshop, we are using our discernment to make a distinction between these things. So that's a preference. The deal with the preference is that you can usually meet in the middle somewhere, unless someone really is a bully, and then it's always their way, and then you have to have a different kind of boundary conversation. But preferences are not the same as deal breakers. And here's the thing with discernment. Another thing that I added in is about judgment. Like what happens where a lot of times with my clients, they would mistake their judgment of another for a boundary violation. They wouldn't understand that they're not the same thing. So I'll give you an example. Judgment is how you can tell if you're doing that, is that judgment is other focused. So you're basically saying you are doing the wrong thing. You determine that they're doing the wrong thing. And the problem with judgment is that you won't always be right. It's only from where you sit. And what other people are doing is their side of the street. How it impacts you is your side of the street. Maybe it doesn't impact you at all. And you're just giving your friend your unasked for criticism, right? Like, I don't think that's right. But if it doesn't affect you, it's kind of not your side of the street. You get where I'm going with this? Why is judgment bad? Well, it shuts down communication. That's part of it. And it is an intimacy blocker. When it impacts you, so I'll give you an example. You can choose discernment instead of judgment, and you can be kind. If you're judging someone who has a drinking problem, you can say, I don't love you. You are bad because you have a drinking problem. That's a judgment. Discernment allows you to say, I choose to set boundaries around my exposure to you when you are drinking because I love you and because I love myself. So that puts the onus of what happens. You've put up the boundary effectively, not with judgment, but with appropriate boundary language, removing yourself from the situation. Because there's so much of the time we make the mistake of thinking that our job and what boundaries will do is change the other people in our life. And that is just a fallacy. It's not the way that it works. Nothing changes until you do. When you change the boundary dance, the other person will have no choice but to change their steps. I can't tell you exactly what they'll do. I can tell you that if you've been in a round robin of bullshit, having the same experience over and over again, that exact thing cannot continue to happen if you stop doing your part of that dysfunctional boundary dance. And people will notice. They definitely will notice when you change something. They certainly notice. But it's important to see the distinction and to understand that discernment, you need discernment in every part of building a rock solid boundary skill set. So clarity. And when we get out of the blaming and the judging, we're able to see, all right, what 50% of this relationship is mine on my side of the street? What can I do that will protect me, that will get my needs met, that isn't about saying that that person's an idiot, even if they are, right? Because all of that is a judgment. But let's move into deal breakers, because these are the really important places where you need boundaries, because these are basically your non-negotiables in relationships. So some of them can be really dramatic, like if you're in a relationship with someone who's physically violent, well, to me, that's a deal breaker. Addiction can be a deal breaker. But if you're in a long-term relationship with someone who's addicted, there's other things that you can do. When I say deal breaker, it means you're not going to stay in the exact situation with this person behaving the exact same way that they've been. You're going to do something different. So everyone's are different. I had the weirdest deal breakers in my relationships and in my life. One boyfriend was not literally, he was not ambitious enough for me. Super talented and not ambitious. I was like, ew, that's a deal breaker. Another one who I loved and at 22 looked great, but I knew he was not physically fit, was never going to go hiking with me. And by 52, that probably would be a deal breaker. So I wanted someone who had the same idea of what living a good life was. And I knew that even when I was young. So again, you will have your own unique deal breakers. And I'm going to ask you to, in your workbook, Start writing down, what are your preferences, right? Where do you find yourself judging others? And what are your deal breakers? And are you currently in any situations where your deal breakers are happening, but you're not taking any action to protect yourself or to change anything? So that's what I'm asking you to do for number 3. And the last one that I added here is accepting no with ease and grace, because what it seems like is that we're always talking about how do we give a no, right? This is mastering your no so you can get to hell yes. That's what we're talking about today. But I have to say, there's something incredibly important about being able to accept and respect someone else's no. So I'm going to ask you to quickly just close your eyes and really think about, when someone says no to you, how do you take it? Is it easy for you? Is it hard for you? Do you attach meaning to it? Because it's a crucial element. Before you're going to be able to master your own no, you have to master the art of accepting someone else's no. So think about it and just drop it in the comments. What happens for you? Can you do it or can you not do it? You can just say yes, meaning you accept. I feel rejected. Rejection. Wow. It wasn't easy for me before, but now I'm pretty good with it. Right on. Good for you. Popcorn. I like your moniker there. I tend to take it personally. Yes. Usually in a romantic relationship, rejection, and take it personally. Totally, Lisa Marie, completely. And it's funny because it's interesting. We can feel differently in different settings. People are saying rejection. I feel like I want to crawl under a rock. I hear you. Shame and rejection, but getting better with awareness, right? Awareness, we know, is the key. Oh, that's a good one. Linda says, I withdraw. How many of you withdraw in anger when someone says no? Where you're like, that's cool. Oh, is something wrong? I'm fine. I'm just tired. What? Like suddenly the conversation just gets chilly in the car. Just no conversation is happening. This is me silently punishing you. I hope you feel it. And when you ask me what's wrong, I'm going to effing say nothing. So you can continue to suffer. Good. You're suffering because you shouldn't have said no. But everyone is saying LOL, yes, because this is so in some ways universal when you haven't gotten to the point in your own boundary intelligence to understand that other people have the right to say no as well. And I'm not talking about extremes, you guys. I'm not talking about someone who always says no. Obviously, there's got to be some balance in a relationship, but it's such an important part of you being able to master your no. So let's talk about a little bit more about what happens. Because when you can't accept someone's no and attach all this meaning, like they don't love me, they're rejecting me, they think I'm a piece of crap. Like we could attach like the most dark meaning to someone saying no, even if there's not meaning is not attached to it at all. But for us, like you said, it feels humiliating. Anna wrote, mistress of sulking. Totally. I so get that. And you're like, but I'm not sulking. I'm just tired. Because if the person calls you out, when you seem mad, you're like, hi, can I just take a minute? I just want to breathe. I'm just thirsty. I just need water. Like anything, but everything is said. You're not saying what you're really thinking, but everything is said in the bitchiest tone where you're like, shut up, whatever. Yes, I understand. All this indirect communication. And don't worry. I mean, actually in the Boundary Bootcamp course itself, we dive deep into, it's literally an entire part of a module dealing with indirect communication, because as women, we have our PhDs in indirect communication, slamming a door, rolling an eye, deep breath, sighing, sarcasm. Like there's so many ways that we got it, that it takes a bit to understand how vast it is and to undo it. But let me tell you what's happening. When you can't accept a no, before you get into being able to ask for a no, say no to people with ease and grace, kindness, right? This is how we want to do it. If you don't figure out your crap around not being able to take no from someone, what you're doing when you get into that moment before you say no is you're projecting your fear, the meaning that you have put on the no from someone else. You're projecting it onto them like, if I say no, they're going to feel humiliated. They're going to want to go under a rock. They're going to be withdrawn in anger. They're going to. But the thing is, that's you like predicting the future and projecting your own experience. They'll have their own experience, and hey, maybe they won't like it, but it will not mirror your exact experience because we're all so incredibly different. Make sense? So before you get into mastering your no, you really need to master the art of accepting no. And it's okay to even ask, can I ask you why? Would you be willing to tell me why you said no to my request or whatever the thing is? So again, it's instead of making an angry assumption, ask, become curious. This is where we become the observer of ourselves and someone else, being dialed into our reaction, and just have the courage to ask the question like, hey, why? And they could say, because I don't want to. And you know what? That could be like the actual reason. That could be enough of a reason. And you just not wanting to do something is a legitimate reason. You don't need to convince people. And I think that it's so much more powerful when you can accept someone else's no, but you can stand in and master your no when you really, truly give yourself permission to say no. If someone invites me to go see music outside, I don't like to. That's it. I don't want to. So it isn't that I don't want to be with you, and it isn't that I don't want to do this thing. I don't want to be outside with music, with people talking, with bugs. I don't want to. So I'll say, I don't enjoy outside stuff, but I'd love to meet up with you for lunch when you have time. Let's do it in 2 weeks. Well, if that person, it takes it personally, as if they invented wherever we were going, like it was their idea, the outside concert, that's not my problem. Like I can't take it on, and neither can you. When you're not projecting your own fear, though, of saying the no, people are so much more likely to be like, okay, instead of flipping out. Now think about this. I want you to really think about this in your life. When someone says no to you and says, well, I told you I was so busy, and I told you that my sister was coming, and like I haven't slept in weeks, and I'm so like, where they're over explaining and getting all heated. And does that make you want to accept their no more? Or does that make you dial into their insecurity of their no? And for some reason, you want to be mad about their no. Well, that's how I feel it. And I feel like I've had tons of clients who go, why are they explaining so much? It's so uncomfortable. It doesn't make the no powerful. And the only way for you to master your no is to truly, in your bones, allow yourself to have it. Give yourself permission to opt out of things. Give yourself permission to change your friggin' mind. You can turn the ship around. You are allowed to change your mind, even if you said yes. And yes, it is harder to bring the no after the yes, no doubt. But it's possible. It is possible. And this is how you will truly master your no. Because another part of the problem is that people start resonating with what is happening inside of you. This anxiety, this unsuredness that you are projecting about the no. So they may not know why they're feeling this way, but it resonates with them because we're not just communicating, right, with people with the words. There's always a parallel process of communication going on. Energetically, we are communicating. So when someone is all hesitant and weird and scared and looking for approval and wants you to be like, you're okay, we feel that. And so that leaves people feeling something, either like that you're not trustworthy or that it was somehow weird or they're uncomfortable, which you don't want. So to master your no, we do all the things we talked about, and you master accepting no from others and really getting it. Forget all this acting out. It doesn't work. It's such a waste of your time. Developing that solid, strong, kind no is a process, just like creating a solid skill set is a process. This is the ongoing evolution, probably for the rest of your life. So, of course, in Boundary Palooza, I'm going to hit as much as I possibly can, raising your awareness, giving you tools. We're going to be doing scripts on next Tuesday. There's all of this stuff that I can teach you, and yet there will always be more, because you'll get to one level of functioning and then you're ready to even be more expert at that level of functioning. Make sense? Makes sense. And here's the last thing I'm going to say about this, and this is going to kind of wrap it all up for today on the teaching, because I want to get to your questions, is that there's no perfect time. So there's no perfect time and there's no perfect way to do it. Just start doing it. So in the beginning, it's going to be awkward. It feels weird. You're not going to do it gracefully and like someone would do it in a movie. Do it awkwardly. Do it badly, but do it, because it's worth it. And as you start to pivot and you shift internally and you give yourself this permission, you can get better at it in time. It's just about being willing to be uncomfortable. Everything I'm teaching you in Boundary Palooza, basically, I'm challenging you to be uncomfortable and not basically just fold into that discomfort and abandon ship. So just stay the course, start doing it, because what happens is this is the beginning of you truly being authentically seen, heard, and known. And that is, you have to master your no in order for those things to happen in your life. That resentment, that constriction we talked about at the top of this workshop, that starts to just dissipate, because saying no in a kind and normal way becomes integrated into your life. It becomes integrated. You no longer have like heart palpitations and you're not dripping sweat from your armpit. Like, it actually becomes normal. So, that is what is going to create the opening for you to embody your hell yes. And a healthy hell yes will also resonate with people in a completely different way. Not a yes driven by fear of rejection. A yes driven by your real ass enthusiasm for whatever it is you're doing. Got it? So I super hope you enjoyed workshop number 2, because I sure did. I hope it added value to your life and that you can see more clearly where fear and discomfort and fear of discomfort might be driving your inability to really master your no. This clarity takes you one step closer to truly embodying a hell yes that will resonate with people as a clean, clear hell yes. Got it? So remember, before we get into the cues, I want to make sure that as you're sharing, please use the hashtag so I can find your post. It makes me so happy. So it's hashtag Boundary Palooza, hashtag BB2019. It's so exciting. And if you know someone who needs this, who the hell doesn't, please share the link, because it's not too late. We've got the replays. Just do it. It's terrycole.com/workshop. We'll also give you extra credit for sharing that if you are going to play full out and you want to win some prizes. Who doesn't want to win prizes? So I'm going to throw down the gauntlet, right? This is me. I'm issuing you a challenge right now. Who's up for the task? I think you can do it. So I start with asking you, if you have not been to Boundary Palooza Central, you need to go there. Super easy. terrycole.com/central. We're going to send it in an email as soon as this is done. You're going to go there. Did you notice that there was a guided meditation there? Did you wonder, like, why guided meditation? What is that about? It's a therapeutically designed guided meditation that I recorded for you that actually will serve as a bridge between your conscious and your unconscious mind. So we're going to be working on your unconscious mind, even when you're sleeping. Because when you do that once a day, so here's the challenge. I want you to do it once a day until we meet again next Tuesday, which is the 17th at 3 p.m., same Terry station, same Terry time. Got it? So you may say, but Terry, I'm not a meditator. Or those of you who just blanked out because I mentioned meditation, you're just eyes glazed over. I'm just going to ask you, do you have a butt? Do you have an ass? Are you sitting on your ass right now? You probably are. Do you have a couch? Oh my God, you're a meditator. Because those are the only two things that you need to be a meditator, and your will to actually do it. So I'm not saying you got to sit in a cross-legged position for days or ever. chanting something for days or at all. This, you can even listen to this while you're walking to work, while you're on the subway. The more it gets in to your unconscious mind, the easier it's going to be for you to master your no with ease, grace, and kindness. So after you download it and during the day, I want you to come back and share with me. Try it out. What happened? So I'm going to be witnessing all of this. You're going to do this you can go to the Facebook group. We have a designated post there, or do it right underneath the video anywhere. We'll be checking all of the places where you can leave comments. I want to hear how it was for you. If you were a virgin to meditation, was this exciting? Was this interesting? Did it happen? All right. So that is your challenge. I want you to share your aha moments, any questions you have that come up. And if you're watching this after the fact, you know what to do. All you got to do is hashtag or replay. And we are going to be checking these throughout Boundary Palooza. So we're not abandoning you just because you couldn't be here at live, because it's 3 a.m. where you live. The next live workshop is happening next Tuesday, 9/17 at 3 p.m., just so you know. So why don't we move into the questions, shall we? We are. Here we go. So many questions. Oh my gosh. Where do I begin? All right. So my boundaries feel abused when my mom is behaving badly to my little sister. Oh, yes. I've never understood if I should set my own boundaries. Given that it's not about me, is this my place to do anything? Such a good one, Marina. Here's the thing. Somebody being, now, if she's being abusive, for sure, you know, it's not affecting you. When you're talking about minor children, and maybe I should have made a caveat to say that. If your sister is a minor, it is affecting you. Your mother being abusive to her. So part of it is maybe talk to your sister and try to come up with a plan. If your mother is that way, I don't know that talking to her is going to help. But that's not the same as like not being on your side of the street. If you're there and it's happening, it's a family matter. You can talk to your sister about boundaries, maybe help her figure out how to get out of there. You know, I don't know how old she is or what she's doing, but that's a different situation than just like diving onto someone else's side of the street. Because if you're in a place and that person is behaving badly, you can leave. You can take your little sister with you and just say, we're going to go get some ice cream. We're getting out of here. It's too heated in here. So you certainly can make a physical boundary by removing her. I'm not sure what your mother would do though, because of, you know, some parents might freak out or be mad about that. So I understand what you're saying though. And that's not the same as feeling someone else's feelings, because she is your blood and you're in the situation, you know, so there is a different shared responsibility for that. All right. Working on forgiveness, says, I think it's Eileen. If I go around and say to those, I forgive you, they would probably laugh me out of there or take advantage. So how do you forgive them? Well, you don't need them to be involved at all to forgive them. So forget them. All you want to do, really what you want to do, is release yourself from resentment prison, right? And you can do that through a ritual, write a letter to them, burn it. Forgiveness is for the forgiver, according to Terry Cole. So I don't know what they did. I don't know. That could be between them and their God. That could be them and someone else. You need to figure out how to not let them take up any more unpaid for space in your brain. So honor your feeling, write down what happened, burn it. That's what I say. All right, moving on. How can you separate your emotions towards someone or compassion to a situation when you know in your gut that it's really unhealthy and destructive? Well, you know, Lisa Marie, if I'm in that situation, the reality, and I was in that situation in my life. One of my sisters, addict, alcoholic, and I spent years trying to save her from herself, you know, but all I did was throw myself under the bus and basically ruin the piece that I'd spent 30 years in therapy creating, until I really got it. When my therapist was like, P.S., you have no idea what this person needs to learn in this lifetime. You don't know. I'm like, well, I think we could all agree that it shouldn't be whatever she was doing, some terrible stuff. And she was like, no, I will not agree. That is her life. She's a grown up. So if you want to remove yourself from the situation, which I did, and then she eventually got sober. So that's a good, happy ending to the story. But you protecting yourself is the way to go, because you need to, and you can't make them do anything. You can get help. If it's an addict situation, you can go to Al-Anon, you can go to, there's all kinds of support where you can learn how to be in a relationship with someone who's self-destructive and how to protect yourself from what it is that they're doing. Oh, this is a good one. How to start to set boundaries after 2+ years in a romantic relationship where you've been just going along with things, even when it was really hurting you inside. So, how do you set boundaries in an established relationship? Well, it's not as easy as it is with a first timer, as I like to say, but it's totally possible. So, think of all of your transformation, anything that you do with me, Boundary Palooza, Boundary Boot Camp, any of my courses, everything is about small steps. So this is about small steps. Get clear within your own mind. What are the boundary violations that you have not said anything about? Now, you're not going to kitchen sink it and write them all down and then be like, by the way, this is what's been happening to me for the last 2 years. But you're going to start to pivot your energy. You're going to give yourself permission to push back and do it in a loving, kind, doesn't have to be charged. You can just say, hey, I would really like to choose where we have dinner tonight. I feel like having Italian food. Let's just say you've always just gone with the flow. That's a start. And you're going to find out very quickly how flexible your person is. In the beginning, they're not going to like it, but because it's something new. So it's threatening. Any change makes the person be like, wait, the balance of this relationship is changing. What's the deal? But if that person is not flexible, if they're more of a toxic personality, they will flip out when you start asserting yourself. And then you have to decide, am I going to stay with someone who only wants to be with me if I do exactly what they want me to do? If I have no needs, if I never prioritize myself? Really? Do we want to be with someone like that? But we don't know that. This remains to be seen. So all I'm saying is slow and steady. Start with very small things. Asserting yourself. Hey, I wanted to ask you, when you get up, I think we've talked about this. Maybe you haven't talked about it, but anything. Would you do me a favor and just close the door quietly? Because whenever you shut the door, when you leave in the morning, it actually wakes me up and I'm still sleeping. Your preferences. Think about preferences before you go to deal breakers, because they're way easier to talk about. All right. How did you get through that dance with your mom in regards to your mom not wanting to deal with uncomfortable information in your poem? Says Anna. Well, you know what? I actually just accepted that my mother couldn't do it. Like, I was on my own in some ways. Like, she was a great mother in some ways, very loving. But I was very clear, because I was an empath at an early age, that she didn't have the skills. And that if I were going to figure out whatever this bad situation that I was in, and it was not great, that my older sisters would help me, my friends would help me, my boyfriend would help me. But I didn't want to burden her with it, because I knew it was going to change the way she thought about me. And years later, I told her about the situation, and she was like, oh my God, Terry, why didn't you tell me? I would not have judged you. I would have been there for you. And I was thinking, 10 years later, maybe. I'm not sure if you would have been, but I was like, it's okay, Mom. I got through it. But I know her. I mean, it only through getting sober and then getting some of my sisters into sobriety did this change my mother's ability to stop being in denial about shit, because people were almost going to die. We had to get super real. And that, sometimes it's a catastrophic event that gets you to be like, oh my God, I can't be in denial because someone's going to maybe die. And luckily my sister didn't die, but could have, All right. Is there a graceful way to say no after you've already said yes to something that you didn't want to do? Of course there is, Kiki. Of course there is. When you give yourself permission to change your mind, you go back to the person, and you should be appropriately apologetic, because you did say yes and now you're changing your mind. But that doesn't mean you can't change your mind. Oh, hey, Betty, I know that I said that I would be able to make 7 things for the potluck, but actually I can't make any, and I can't even come now because my work situation has changed. I'm really sorry. And it's such short notice, but I appreciate you inviting me. But I can't. So I'm not coming to the potluck. Betty, take me off the list, right? You're giving her the information that she needs. You're allowed. And you know what? Maybe Betty's going to be like, oh, great, thanks. And she's going to live. Betty's going to get over it. Someone else is going to make the pot roast. It's going to be fine. We feel like the one thing with being empaths and highly sensitive people too, and being highly codependent, is that we feel like our life is under this microscope, that everyone is analyzing us. And oh my God, if you only knew, I've been a therapist for 22 years, how self-absorbed most people are. They're not analyzing you. They're barely thinking about you. If you're inconveniencing inconveniencing them. They'll be pissed for 2.2 seconds and then they'll move on and get someone else to make the 7 things you were going to make, you know, especially if you don't cancel normally, you know? So I hope that was helpful. When I express what I need, the other person will make me feel bad and convince me that my need didn't matter. How do I stay confident in my need, says Claire. I actually think that that's a great question. And they're only convincing you because you're allowing them to. So when you say, hey, this is important to me, and they go, you know what, it shouldn't be important though, because that's not even that's like a dumb thing. Like, I don't even get it. Like, who cares about those things or whatever? You could say, hey, I'm not asking you your opinion about my need. I'm not interested in that. I'm asking you if you would be willing to consider doing it this way, because this is the way I would like it to be done. It would make me feel really cared for and loved if you would do that. The moment someone's like, your need is stupid, you're like, who the fuck asked you? I didn't ask you what you think about my need. I'm just telling you about my need. So then the request can be, hey, do me a favor. Please stop judging my need. I didn't ask for your opinion. And please just answer the question. And, you know, maybe they'll say no, and that's fine. But you can also use the words like, you know what is interesting? I'm the only person who knows what I need. You don't know better than me what I need. So your side of the street is, if you don't want to do it, say no. But I don't appreciate you thinking that you know me better than I know me, because you don't, Bob. You really don't. All right, we're moving on. Yeah, oh, this is good. Tracy asked, is it fair to ask for context when someone tells you no, though? Absolutely. And here's the thing. I want to make the distinction between what giving context means is, if I'm talking to someone who's important to me in my life, I will tell them why I can't do it. Not to convince them to approve of me saying no, not to get on their good side. I'm doing it because I want them to more deeply understand me. And it matters to me. If these are people I love, it matters to me what they think, and that they know that I'm not just sitting home and watching Netflix, that I really did want to be there. And if I'm canceling, it's for a real reason that I can't change, and that I shouldn't have said yes in the first place or whatever. So context is really important. But when you've been either a high functioning codependent or had the disease to please, it's really important that you understand how to make the distinction between context and convincing, because they're two different things. So I hope that was helpful. There's 9,000 more questions, and there's no way I'm getting to them, but they're great. And I will be doing these. I'm going to be popping up on Facebook Live and Instagram and all different places, and YouTube. We're saving all of these in documents. So I'm going to really try to hit as many as I possibly can at random times. So you'll see me, and that'll all be recorded. So if you miss it, you'll be able to see it. Do I have time, Team TC, to do one or two more? Two more? All right, I do. Jillian, how to set boundaries with a negative elderly father. Super fun. What your relationship is to the person definitely informs the way that you would draw the boundary. And you'll see this in the next workshop when we're talking about boundary scripts. Like, we ask those questions, like, who is it and what is my relationship to them? Because how you would set a boundary with your friend would not be appropriate with your boss, and probably not with your elderly crabby dad, right? There are going to be different ways of doing it. So you can do it nice with him. But the thing is, you can't want his approval in doing it. If he's asking too much from you to do something, you just have to say, this is what I can do, Dad. So I can't come Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but I can come every Friday, and I will. If he tries to make you feel bad, you know your limits. You have to know yourself. You have to say, I'm really sorry that you're disappointed, but right now with my work schedule, that honestly is the best I can do. When my work schedule changes, I'll try to make it more. But the thing that so many of us are wanting in this Boundary Palooza, and when I teach the course, all of it, is we're like, how to make it easy and pain-free. And I'm not saying that was your question, but in general, there's this feeling of like, how can I be comfortable doing it? And what I want to just say is, you're not going to be comfortable doing it. So your job is to be okay in the discomfort and in the not knowing, and it'll get better the more you do it. So nothing terrible is going to happen if you draw a boundary with your elderly father and if you don't do it perfectly, but you will feel less resentful of him by doing it. So the truth is, it's for the best in the relationship when we actually say no when we mean no and say yes when we mean yes. Does that make sense? All right. Do I have one more? Did you say I could do one more? Okay. All right. So Elena said, I had a life coach last year in the beginning of this year. After I stopped working with her and told her no, I feel like she's stalking my social media now. She also said she wants to talk about why I stopped working with her. What do I do if I don't think it's healthy attention from her side? Oh, here's the thing, Elena, you don't have to talk to her. Well, no, she wants to talk to you about why. Well, you don't want to. So thanks. We're done. Bye. Block her on social media. Just be bold. You do not owe that person anything. Something is out of balance with someone who's supposed to be a professional and is literally saying, I want to get on the phone with you so you can tell me to my face why you quit me, basically. No, there's something not right about that. And you don't have to. And this brings me to like the last point that I'm going to make, which is that just because someone asks doesn't mean we have to do it. The moment you abandon yourself and dial into their reality because they want you to do that thing, is the moment you're already screwed. You got to stay in your own reality, your own body, the wisdom of your God pod, as Chris would say, and feel. If you have that constriction, then buy time, right? You're like, hey, I have a 48-hour rule. I'll let you know in 2 days. You don't owe anyone an immediate answer. And I think that part of it is building in time so that as your boundary skills get better, you'll be able to say no with ease and grace more and more. But the buying of time makes it more gentle on you because it's easier to say no the first time around. Although, of course, we can go back and say no too. So, oh my goodness, I hope so hardcore that this added value to your life. So much. Like that is my wish. This is my dharma, is that there's something that happened in this hour that we just spent together, an aha moment that is going to lessen your suffering, that's going to raise your awareness and empower you in your life in some way that you weren't before we spent this hour together. Honestly, that's my whole thing. So thank you for being brave, boundary boss little babies, we're going to say, because you're in the beginning process of it. But I'm so impressed with your willingness to do the hard work. So just thank you. Remember, Tuesday, I've issued a challenge. Don't forget it. Do that freaking meditation every day from now until Tuesday. It's not even 10 minutes long. Remember, if you have a butt and a couch, you're a meditator, you can do it. I want you to see what shifts internally when you meditate every day. You're going to gain a little bit of space. It creates expansion. And sometimes all you need is 2 additional seconds to confidently say, you know what, Betty, I really can't. And just leave it at that, Betty. You don't even have to give her context, but you need those 2 seconds. And I promise you, there is a connection between these therapeutically designed meditations and you gaining that internal expansion that you need. So we're going to be emailing you. So keep your eyeball open for the email that will give you all the information for our Tuesday. That is the 17th at 3 p.m., where I'm going to be talking about scripts. Let's talk about the words. What do you actually say in the moment? And what else are we telling them? I think that's it. That's all. I'll see you everywhere in all the places. I'll see you. So please keep dropping your aha moments. Please share this with the women that you love, because if you love them, you want them to have good boundaries. And I will see you next Tuesday. I'm so super excited. Thank you. All love and rockin' boundaries coming your way right now from my heart to yours. See you guys on Tuesday. Bye.